Now, it's recently come to my attention that I've once again become a jaded boomer asshole about video games. And this is no surprise to me, it's happened several times before, as I've lived through the death of all of my favorite games of all time. And so I figured if the future looks bleak, it might be time to look towards the past, and remind myself why I fell in love with gaming in the first place. And along the way, I'll attempt to answer the question, does the 360 hold up? And so we'll return to Jester's Chest of Magic and Wonders and find ourselves our next game, which is Elder Scrolls Oblivion, which came out in 2006. And you know, I never played this game until considerably after it came out, as you can tell by the GameStop cover. While I had seen videos of the gameplay and had read the article in Game Informer about Oblivion, I never gave it a chance until after I had played Skyrim, which means I first played Oblivion likely in 2013 or so. And let me let you in on a secret. I fucking hated it. After being spoiled by Skyrim, I found it very hard to go back and play this admittedly archaic game. The leveling system was off-putting to me, the weapons not being craftable was something that I didn't enjoy, and I just did not make it that far into the game, I think until level 4 or so, before I put it down forever, and decided if I wanted to play an RPG experience like this, I would just play Skyrim. And to be honest, I haven't thought about Oblivion much since then, until the remaster came out, about a month or so ago. And I fucking loved it. I crushed that game. I couldn't put it down. I couldn't stop playing it. And so yeah, it was definitely just me not really seeing the vision of the game and not being able to appreciate it for what it was. But all that begs the question, does a game that turns 20 years old the next year hold up when played on original hardware? My god, it's beautiful. Oh wait, wrong game. Yeah. Now, I don't know if you're going to be able to tell from the footage I have here, but Oblivion looks like shit. It is, in my eyes, a couple years beyond the window before games developers were able to make a game on a massive scale while still making that game look good. And I think that Oblivion really falls into that unfortunate category where they were doing their best, you know? We'll give credit where it's due. 2006 was a long time ago, and was still pretty early in the 360's era. Now, one of the things that really impressed me while I was playing the remastered version of Oblivion was that the spell crafting system seemed way more competent than the basic generic spell system that was in Skyrim. And this is something that I absolutely didn't get the chance to experience in my 2 or so hours of gameplay back in 2013, because the spell crafting mechanics are kind of hidden. You kind of have to be a mage to be able to use them. Luckily for me, having just recently played the remaster, I knew just where to find an easy, convenient spellcrafting table. All I had to do was find Frostcrag Spire. But where the fuck even is it? It's really hard to tell with all this awkward and ugly terrain. Anyway, I guess I'll just look that up later and return to it. For now, my main goal was to build what I see as the canonical main character of Oblivion, which is of course an Argonian that is more than eager to charge headfirst into the Oblivion gates and throw hands with any fucking demon that gets in their path. And so to facilitate the crafting of this build, it's going to take me through the majority of the major factions of this game to gain all the bits and pieces that will make this a viable strategy. And first off, the most powerful way to gain an increase to hand-to-hand damage is to pick the lock on this chest and steal these bracers, which gives you a whopping 20 points into your hand-to-hand skill, a pretty massive increase at level 1. As well as that, we can stand in front of these fighters and wait around until we get a random passive increase to our hand-to-hand, which is a pretty good starting point. From there, I began looking for Frostcrag Spire. Seriously, I know it's around here somewhere. Anyway, one of my major priorities is, on kind of a neurotic personal level, I wanted to fence the bracers that I had stolen so that if I ever got arrested and was in a position where I would lose a lot of progress if I had to reload a save, instead I could just get arrested and not have to worry about losing or having to reobtain my items. Specifically, one of the most important items in my build. And so I began the Thieves Guild quest, and only did the first intro mission to gain access to the fence. However, little did I know that these bracers are incredibly fucking expensive and valuable. The fence would only buy them from me for 600 gold, his max allotment, and to buy them back it was over 3,000 gold. Which means my plan became to grind some levels so that my enemies would drop enchanted better gear, which I could sell for more money, and gather the stockpile of gold I would need in order to buy back my bracers. But first, seriously, where the fuck is Frostcrag Spire? And you know, I'll tell you where it is. It's not in the fucking game. Me not having a lot of experience with the original game, I did not realize that this was downloadable content, specifically premium DLC content. And you know, Oblivion actually has quite a few microtransactions, including the Horse Armor Pack, what many see as the first microtransaction in gaming, and which has a 3-star rating on the store, appropriately so. It was a joke back then. We fucking used to laugh that people would actually pay a couple bucks to change a cosmetic item in a video game. And maybe that's kind of on us back then for laughing at it instead of taking a stance against it. Because as we would later learn through algorithms and clickbait media, farming for engagement, laughing at something doesn't really shut it down. In fact, it often gives it more power. And now in the current state of gaming, where every single game has a premium cosmetic option, it kind of feels more like we're paying taxes to play these games. It's kind of like a game dev welfare system that keeps companies from doing massive layoffs. And that's a really unfortunate thing, and we should all feel ashamed for that. The state of modern gaming is in a really unfortunate position, and there's not a lot about it that doesn't seem toxic. It's pretty wild that people had to praise Elden Ring for being the one game that was sold as a full game and then didn't have any strings attached. That used to be the standard. Anyway, despite saying all that, I still wanted to purchase the Frostcrag Spire Wizard Tower Pack because it makes crafting spells considerably easier, and it's definitely worth the couple of bucks. However, this is the very moment that I realized that the Xbox 360 Marketplace store was permanently down. And even though prompts could bring you to the store if you go in through the game, you can't actually make the purchases. Which is really unfortunate for this whole series, but it is what it is. Okay, well, if we don't have access to an easy spellcrafting station, we'll have to go through the entire recommendation to the Mage College questline to get access to one. And from there, we can begin crafting our spells and using them to level up. One of the things I'm aiming for is to get a high alteration stat. That way I can cast as good of a protection spell as I can, which will allow me to wail on the enemies for longer without having to heal. Now, one thing that is kind of awkward about the leveling system, but is something I find to be immersive and therefore find value in, is that the amount of attribute level up you'll get per total level up is based on which skills you used in the period where you were going through that level. I really like the intent behind this design, drawing a parallel between what you're doing and what you're actually training in the game. But at the same time, it does sort of restrict your ability to roleplay the game, especially when a lot of your available ways to increase your level don't really correlate with the eventual total build you'll want to have. I feel like the perfect area would be a middle ground between these two systems, but that would require many of the systems in the background to be running in tandem with this. And so a good portion of gameplay within this run was just me crouching behind these dudes while casting spells, which leveled my spells and also gave me sneak increases, which would help level my total level, and that would further my goal of making enemies spawn at higher levels and therefore drop higher gear, which would eventually allow me to finally fence my bracers. And at that point, I had gathered just about everything I needed for this build to be complete. But there's one item I wanted left, which was a necklace that I would only obtain after completing almost the entirety of the Fighting Guild's quests, given to you as you're unearthing the Blackwoods Conspiracy, during the point of gameplay where you're interrogating this Argonian. However, the weird thing is, this reward, which gives you a bonus to speechcraft and hand-to-hand, called the Amulet of Interrogation, is only given to you after you've already interrogated the guy. just kind of backwards, and I believe they fixed that in the remaster, giving it to you before you have to interrogate him. And so now that I have all the physical items I need to complete this build, I made the final preparations by crafting the most powerful spells I could that I could cast within my amount of magicka, and by enchanting whatever pieces of ebony armor I could find. My build was finally complete, and now that I had finished grinding, I was finally able to take my powerful build out for a spin. Well, luckily the blanket method came in clutch, and I was able to limp this old Xbox along enough to finish this video. And so I'm going to start wrapping this video up, because I don't plan on doing the entirety of the main storyline campaign in this game, because I just did it in the remaster and it's kind of long and drawn out and boring. However, I did really enjoy playing this game despite having played the remaster so recently. The thing that I'm kind of learning about these 360 games throughout this series, which was highlighted by Oblivion, is that these games aren't just a novelty for the sake of this video. It's not just that they hold up, but that a lot of them are more fun than a lot of the other modern games I might be playing currently, and that I come home and I'm excited to play these games. Oblivion has been my main hobby game for the last week and a half or so, and that's obviously not based on any sort of nostalgia. I fucking hated this game when I first played it. It's just that it's a good game, and I've only now realized that after playing the remaster. And the one thing that I can kind of point to say, yeah, this game maybe doesn't hold up, is that there's basically no reason to not just play the remaster. And the only few things I can really point out to go against that would be that the remaster's crafting tables sometimes just fail. You just get locked up and you can't finish the crafting process, which maybe has been patched by now, I don't know. And also that if you play the game too long, you'll eventually get more and more crashes in the remaster. Again, maybe it's patched. But besides those features, the remaster is a really faithful adaptation of this ancient-ass game. And a lot of the changes to balance and leveling systems and RPG elements and all of that, they really are improvements to the game and the way it's meant to be played. The menus are also a lot slower in the original, and the map is so small that it's hard to get your bearings as to where the different settlements are to one another. All of which is improved in the remaster. And of course it looks incredibly good, especially when compared to the original game. And so it's hard for me to say this holds up or doesn't, and I'm put in this weird position where I can't really say that you should go back and play it on the original hardware or anything like that, because if you own the remaster, you should probably just play the remaster. And that's coming from me, someone who loves old shitty graphics. I honestly think that the Argonians and the Khajiit look better in the original game, because I like that they look kind of stupid. It's charming to me, whereas the remasters are kind of over-polished, and they give me kind of a creepy feeling when looking at them. With that being said, this is a game about exploration to an extent. It's an adventure through this world, and the 2006 version of this game is a really ugly world to explore. But I don't think we should judge the games based on if there is an option to play them in modern times like that. I think this series is more about looking at the content at the time and just seeing if it stands up to modern games. And in that regard, I can absolutely say that Oblivion holds up. Replaying Oblivion lately has beat out Night Rain as far as my interests go. In my personal life, I've chosen to play it over anything else. And especially in modern times where we just can't expect to see an Elder Scrolls game ever again, essentially, because people demand such picture-perfect looking games that they can't really make them that massive and still be able to satisfy people. I mean, when's the last time that an open-world exploration-style game really made you feel like you were going on an adventure? In my eyes, the last one was Elden Ring, probably, and maybe to an extent Starfield. I guess. I have a real soft spot for Starfield, up until that shitty DLC. Oh, and by the way, anyone who ever fucking complained about loading screens in Starfield, have you ever played a Bethesda game? There's like 40,000 loading screens just in the Imperial City alone. That's just how these games have to be played. I don't know what kind of fucking cyber future PC rig you're running, but like, a game like this doesn't function without loading screens. Respectfully, get your head out of your ass. And don't get me wrong, I'm not defending Starfield when I say that. that. Starfield fucking sucks. I just personally like it. If you're familiar with this game, you'll know that I'll be heading towards the Kvatch section of gameplay just after this Oblivion gate. And since you know I power grinded levels early on, you might be wondering, did I over level for this mission? To which I would reply with, yeah, kind of. My game was like almost on the brink of crashing with how many large, graphically intensive enemies were crammed in this small area. Don't you worry, my punch build fucked them all up. So much so that at one point, one of the Chad Imperial soldiers dropped his fucking weapon and began punching there right with me.
Thank you so much, best friend!
Anyway, to wrap this all up, does Oblivion hold up? Yeah, absolutely it holds up. This was a really fun experience to play through, and I finally got to use that GameStop disc that probably cost me like 20 bucks that I previously only used for a couple of hours. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and let me know in the comments if you have any recommendations of 360 games you might want me to play on this series. Do me a favor, share it around, hit the like button, comment, all that stuff. I would really like this series to do well. It's been a ton of fun so far, and it's really nice for a guy like me to take a break from being an asshole for, I don't know, a couple minutes every year. Anyway, thanks for watching.